Have you ever looked at your bank account and wondered, I just got paid, where'd all my money go? Not because you bought anything expensive or you went on a shopping spree, but yet somehow your paycheck seemed to disappear faster than the New York Minute. Here's something that most people realize, and that is that the problem isn't always how much money you make. Sometimes the problem is how quickly your money disappears. Imagine, if you will, if that same paycheck could last much longer than it do already. Imagine reaching the end of the month without counting down the days until your next payday. Well, today I'm going to show you how ordinary families have transformed the way they use money without getting a raise, taking a second job, or living miserable, cutting everything out, having life in constant sacrifice mode. By the time you reach the end of this video, you'll have a framework that helps you make your money last longer, so you have more money than money, opposed to more money than money. So let me start by introducing you to a couple. We're going to call them Dave and Emily. They're like millions of other couples out here in the world. Together, they bring in about $5,500 a month. Not a lot, right? From the outside, everything looked perfect. They looked fine. The bills were getting paid, food stayed on the table, the kids had whatever they needed. But every month ended the same exact way. Checking account was nearly empty, savings is barely growing, and stress quietly built up as we see the attitudes between them to flare up. They kept asking themselves to one question: why does it feel like we're always starting over every single month? That's not zero-based budgeting, not at all, so don't get that confused. But here's what happened. One Saturday afternoon, they spread every receipt they had from the past month across the dining room table. I'm talking about coffee, free delivery, impulse purchases, extra streaming services, convenience store shops, and none of those purchases seemed big. But together, they quietly consumed hundreds of dollars. It wasn't because they were careless. It was the small decisions that rarely feel expensive when they were making them that was eating at them. But here's the hidden leak. Most people think financial stress comes from one big mistake, but usually it comes from dozens of tiny decisions that barely register at the moment but make a big impact. Think of a bucket with a tiny hole. One drop doesn't seem like much, neither does the next, but over time, the bucket slowly empties. Money works in the same way. Forgotten subscriptions, grabbing takeout because you're too tired to cook, buying something simply because it's on sale, paying extra for convenience without thinking twice. None of these purchases feel like life changes, but all together, oh yeah, they quietly shape your financial future, and it's not looking good. In fact, consumer behavior research from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, also known as CFPB, found that many people spend more than they intend because they don't regularly compare their purchases to their plan or budget. This study also found that people believe real-time spending feedback will help them curb impulse purchases and stay on track. The link is down in the bio if you want to read more research on that. But that's why stretching your money isn't about saying no to everything. It's about becoming more aware of where your money is slipping away from you quietly. Finding those small leaks so you can patch them up so that they don't become big problems. You just have to adopt a different way of thinking, like Dave did. So what Dave did is decided that him and Emily wouldn't begin by cutting everything. Instead, they started asking one simple question before spending $1. Will I still be happy if I bought this next week? That one single question changed everything. Sometimes the answer was yes, sometimes it wasn't. And if it wasn't, they waited. More often than not, the urge tended to disappear. Then they started making small replacements. Coffee made at home instead of Starbucks. Movie nights instead of expensive evenings out. Cooking extra portions to avoid buying lunch the next day. None of these changes felt dramatic, but all together, once again, they created room for them to breathe. And something unexpected happened when they did that. They stopped feeling deprived because they wasn't focused on what they didn't have or what they couldn't buy. They were more focused on keeping more of what they already earned and being grateful for what they did have.
Buying a laptop for school? That price is already painful. Before you pay, check Rakuten. Search the store, activate cash back, then shop like normal. This works for the stuff you were already buying. Don't just shop, make money moves.
Now let's fast forward 3 months later. Something interesting happened. Their income hadn't changed. They hadn't got a raise. They hadn't given any more money. Yet, their checking account looked kind of different. For the first time in years, money was still sitting there at the end of the month. It may not have been thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions, but it was enough to realize that financial confidence isn't built by one great decision, but by hundreds of ordinary ones put together. They weren't spending less because life was boring. They were spending with intention instead of habit. There's a difference, and that difference changed everything for them. Now here's the blueprint. If you want your paycheck to last longer, you don't need a perfect budget. You may make more than Emily and David. You may make less, but all you need is a few habits that make spending more intentional. And here's where you start. First, I want you to track every expense for, let's say, 1 month. This is not to make you feel guilty, but it's just to help you understand where your money naturally goes. Awareness almost always comes before improvement. So second, before buying something that's not essential, I'm talking about something that's outside your rent or mortgage or food, I want you to give yourself 24-hour pause. That means wait for 24 hours before you decide to buy it. This simple waiting period creates enough distance for your emotion to settle down and logic to actually catch up with you. Financial experts at Bankrate recommend this approach because many impulse purchases lose their appeal once the excitement wears off, which is normally about 24 hours. And if you want to read more on that, the link's also in the bio. Now the third thing I need you to do is look at your 3 biggest monthly expenses: housing, transportation, and food. According to Fidelity, these categories usually consume the largest share of a household budget, which means even small improvements here and there often have a much bigger impact than cutting dozens of little small expenses. Again, you can look in the description and find more on that in the link on Fidelity. The fourth thing is, whenever extra money comes your way, whether it's a bonus, tax refund, cash gifts, just pause for a minute before spending. Don't spend the money before you got it. Just pause before you spend it and decide. And that decision is to determine where it should go before someone else decides for you, like your bill collectors. And remember, financial progress isn't built by one perfect month. It's built by hundreds of ordinary decisions repeated over and over and over again. So to close this thing out, here's something I want you to think about. If someone secretly followed you for 1 week, 1 month, and watched every dollar you spent, would they say your money reflects your priorities or your habits? Take a moment to be honest with yourself, because the way that you spend today shapes your choices you'll have tomorrow. So do me a favor and drop in the comments and tell me what's one small expense you're going to cut back on this week, this month, so your money lasts a little longer. I'd love to hear your answer. And in the next video, we're going to tackle something that millions of people struggle with every single day, and that is how to pay off debt fast. We'll walk through practical strategies to help you pay down debt more efficiently, avoid common mistakes that keep balances growing, and build momentum towards becoming debt-free sooner than later. Until then, remember, don't take notes, take action.